quite literally yesterday, Dead Island 2 released. And for a game that's been in development hell for almost 10 years, it's pretty good. It's no Duke Nukem... What was it? Duke Nukem 3D? It's no Duke Nukem 3D, it's no Cyberpunk 2077. It's pretty good. But because, you know, originally you had Dead Island, and then Dying Light was a spiritual successor to that, Dying Light 2 and Dead Island 2 are being compared. And some of the comparisons aren't just unfair, they don't make any sense and aren't rooted in any fact. Okay, this all sparked by looking at, like, I'll leave a link for the description. It's a, you know, a comparison video. You have gameplay from each, except one's, you know, you're really high level in Dying Light 2, and the other, you're, like, low level. And they're playing like a games journalist, if you know what I mean. They're not exactly playing either very well. For instance, people are really happy with the new gore in Dead Island 2. Some don't believe it exists, and that it's, you know, not outside the promo gameplay. Also, people have been looking at, you know, the new update to Dying Light 2, and I actually had a look at it, and I haven't played it in months, mind you, and wow, that boat... And... Camera, focus! Yeah, so I was trying to say before my camera decided to stop focusing, is that it's actually pretty good now. Like, from a performance and from a gameplay perspective, it's actually pretty good now. It performs well, like, really good. Enemies no longer Looney Tunes. When you kick them off the roof, they don't stand there for a second and, oh, I'm about to fall. You know when that happens, like in Roadrunner, and he kind of stands there and waits a second. Because that used to happen, and that always drove me insane. It's why I went back to the first game and kept playing that, but didn't come back to 2. And they've also revamped the gore, which is nice. It's nowhere near as good as Dead Island 2, but definitely at the same level as, you know, the original Dying Light. So that's very nice. Other than that, you know, from what I understand of the update and what I've played, which is only a couple minutes just to get the footage, and I'm at about the same point in both games. Like, I have gone further in Dying Light 2, just I got this save up because I have another save. I thought if I'm going to get footage, I might as well get them at about the same, you know, level and point in the game. But yeah, other than that, Dying Light 2, still the same game, just with some improvements sort of thing. And I don't think it's a bad game, but, you know, it isn't as good as the first Dying Light. It just didn't feel like that, and it wasn't this good on launch. And my dog is now barking. Do you disagree with me, Henry? You want to tell the people something? You think Dying Light 2 is better than 1? Yeah? You yelling at me for even suggesting that 2 is worse? Hmm? Not talking to me now? Okay. But yeah, as I was saying, on launch, Dying Light 2 was a bit of a mess. Not Cyberpunk 2077 mess, but, as I said, the Looney Tunes, there were countless bugs. The game was filled with jank. And, like, even still, the animations just don't feel right. I don't know, they're not as satisfying. Same thing with human combat. They seem to have improved it a little bit. The enemies can dodge more, or they could originally, now they can more frequently. But that's about it. It's more gameplay side. And I didn't really love the story for it. I thought it was okay. But I mean, you had, like, the two sort of main factions you could side with, which were the PKs, or the Peacekeepers, and then the Survivors, which were, like, an ultra-religious group, but they were just called the Survivors. I didn't like that. That was very unoriginal. That's just a nitpick, but I think Henry's angry at me again. But sort of the game story feels a bit generic, and though first Dying Light's base campaign is in the story a little bit generic. Dead Island 2 doesn't have a serious story, which I think goes to its benefit, because zombies are never very good, you know, being serious. If you've watched, like, any, especially older zombie films, you'll know Like, there's this level of... They're like B-movie horror movies. It's like B-movie games. And it's just like, if you sort of accept that it's, you know, not serious, it becomes easier to deal with. And like, Dying Light had that for, you know, a little bit. It still had like humor. Crane was kind of a bit of... He'd crack jokes a lot, even at Rise. Just tell him to
shut the fuck up!
Dying Light 2, for a game where you were essentially a super-powered zombie and your... what? His father, technically? No? Maybe? I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. Hang on, I'm looking that up. Oh, they're not. They're just real close. Well, okay, that makes sense. Right. So. My point still stands, though, is it's quite ridiculous. You know, you have these two superpower zombie mutant people fighting each other. That does get to, like, the top of absurdity when it comes to the zombies, you know? It's like Resident Evil 6 levels of absurd. Or Resident Evil 5, Wesker can now teleport and is basically Neo from the Matrix because reasons of absurd. It doesn't mean it can't still be fun, but if you treat it as serious, it becomes very cringy. Yeah, you get bit in the first second of the game, and they're like, oh, it's a Dying Light. That happens in Dead Island. You get bit there too, because, you know, in them, you are also superpowered and infected. So they clearly don't know anything about it. And someone, you know, said, Dead Island 2 is just boring. First game I've played that didn't come close to finishing in a long time. It released yesterday. Do you finish every game you get in a day? Like, I can kind of understand if it's like a 6-hour game. I think, you know, Dead Island 2 is a bit longer, like to 12. So did you plan to play it for the whole day and not end up to? Because, like, it's only been a day. And yeah, the gore recently feels a bit tacked on, but I don't mind it. But it was, yeah, it was ingrained into the DNA of Dead Island 2. It's very much a part of it. But they're made by the same people, and are literally both games about hitting zombies with melee weapons. They're very similar combat systems. Also, this person's probably a child. Why am I criticizing them? So far, it is a fun, brain-numbing game, and yes, if you want like a darker, grittier zombie experience, go to Dying Light 2. I recommend more Dying Light 1. Oh, if you really wanted, if you want human combat, go to Dying Light 2. There is more human combat in that. And the combat against humans is alright in Dying Light 1, but it's a bit difficult and a little janky. Yeah, factually, that's not an opinion. Factually, Dead Island 2's goal system is more advanced. Whether it's better is up to you, but from a technological standpoint, it's more advanced. I mean, how I understand it is the models in that, they're essentially like meat piñatas, if you can think about that. That's how they filled out with that, and it could be procedural. This guy is just the, chaotic neutral of this entire argument, isn't he? And he's an idiot, apparently. And this is very much what I like. Dying Light is better than Dead Island. Dead Island 2 is better than Dying Light. And then Dying Light 2 win look video, are you blind? Win at what? This is why I got so annoyed. And it's just, you know, people, when you're on the internet, the opinions no longer exist. It's all facts. Everything is this and that. Yeah, Dead Island 2 is a way better sequel. Dying Light 2, not a great sequel. It just doesn't... The art style, different things have changed. Whereas Dead Island 2 is very similar to the first game, in sort of the right ways. The video didn't seem like a fair comparison, as I said. It was like you had a high-level Dying Light 2 character and a starting off Dead Island 2 character. But yeah, that's the gist of my complaining for today. I'm going to go away now and back. Well, I'm here, so I'm going to stay here, and you're going to stop watching this video.